Hello, and welcome to my video. So I participated in Artfight and drew an attack a day. Well, I completed an attack a day. Some of the animated ones or more complicated illustrations took quite a while. So, yeah, I'm just gonna show you what I did this year. This is my first long-form video, so if there's anything you'd like to see improved, or if you'd like to see more of these, please leave a comment. With that out of the way, let's get into it. 1. This was my first attack of the year. It was actually one of my first bookmarks of the year as well. I saw a cat boy and was like, mine! I was trying to make him look a bit more mischievous, but he ended up just looking insecure. I was trying out a new shading style, and I actually quite liked how it turned out. I might use it again in the future. The only problem is you kind of have to zoom in to see all of the detail work. I did this one while I was helping my grandmother move, so it was very on and off as I was drawing in my 5-minute breaks. 2. I had so many ideas for this character and I couldn't decide on a pose, but I ended up with this one. I wish I had spent a bit more time on the planning phase because the perspective and anatomy look a bit weird, and some details, like the entire back of the dress, ended up getting lost. Since this was an alternate universe of Mari from Amori, I tried making the headspace background to kind of plop her in. I didn't entirely realize her hair was supposed to be the headspace background, so it took some fiddling to get the hair to be contrasting enough not to lose readability. The bushes are supposed to have red roses in them, and roses are the flower that are assigned to Hero in the canon game, so I thought it'd be a cool nod to that. 3. This was a revenge attack. I really loved drawing the pose, but the colors confused me. I didn't really get why that she was a girl until halfway through the base sketch. I also didn't realize that she was a cat until way too late. I think I got those elements in accidentally, so hopefully it came across well enough. I love drawing ribbons in flowy poses, so it meshed well with my style. I probably should have made the stage a different shape. I was thinking more catwalk, but now that I think about it, you don't really ribbon dance it on the runway, you know? Oh well. 4. I love this character's concept, and it feels like he'd be great for a slice-of-life comedy anime. I love the vibrant colors and abstract designs. I wish I had spent a bit more time on posing and stuff, because this legitimately looks like just my natural pose I use whenever I can't think of a pose. Originally it was going to be a full body, but the character didn't have a full body reference, and I didn't want to guess at it. I spent so much time messing around with the shading and background especially. The background has 3 base layers, a few kind of abstract scribbles, plus some lighting and shading layers. It was so fun to see what looked good, and I think it turned out pretty well. 5. This one is one I finally did actually like the pose for. It did end up being a default pose, but I think it just happened to fit the character. I was a bit confused on the lore, so I wasn't entirely sure what background I should do, but after rereading, I decided he's a fast food worker, so a random street shouldn't be too out of world. I tried to make it look like he wasn't doing very well and was smiling through it, since he's a generally grumpy person, so the whole, you haven't seen anything yet, would probably fit with him. I'm not sure that really came across, though. The mesh around the legs was so hard to figure out to color. I couldn't tell the difference between white and white. This one was really fun to draw. I was pushed a bit outside of my comfort zone since I don't normally draw anything that isn't human or a cat. Since they seem like they spend a lot of time in the forest, I wanted to draw them laying on a pile of leaves with the sun flickering through the trees onto them. In the end, this illustration ended up being a bit rushed, so I didn't have time for too many details, like the star on the necklace not getting colored. The outfit design was really what stood out to me from this character, as I really like the earthy tones and the texture the slight wear and tear gave to it. So fun. 7. This character's pose was inspired by Deco 27's monitoring. Maybe the eye patch was what inspired that? I wanted to try something similar to the fisheye perspective, but top down instead. Didn't really work out too well, but it was fun to attempt. This was mostly a doodle since I didn't really have a solid plan for it, but it worked out pretty well. The line work took ages. I very much dislike drawing straight lines, and a character with a cube head tends to have a lot of those. I ended up going pretty well considering it was drawn on a whim. 8. I'd been looking forward to drawing this one for a while. I love the Victorian child design. He's so cute. I finally built up the motivation to attempt it, and I'm glad I did. His little bunny is adorable and reminds me of my own OC, Lionel's stuffed animal, Duck. I got this shoelace perspective all wrong, and the chair is a bit funky, but overall I like how it turned out. Sweet and innocent. For some reason it reminds me of Maggie and Dolly. Oh my. I kinda need to learn how to draw socks better because those things were confusing. The hand sit turned out amazing though. I don't know if I'll be able to replicate those again. 9. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to do a dead or design or the alive design. Originally I was going to do this cool composition where Ghost Self is looking at her alive self in this kind of melancholy way, and it was going to be great, but I ended up just not having the time. I was working on this one mostly while in the car repair shop and on the way home. It definitely took a bit to get the motivation to draw the straight lines required for her legs, but it was worth it in the end. 10. I love this cat so much. I've had it bookmarked since last year, but I hadn't really gotten around to drawing it until now. I was kind of on a time crunch since I had procrastinated for a bit. The background and stuff was inspired by Whimsy's Rim World. I tried to make the cat look a bit creepy or weirdcore. I think the only thing that necessarily came across was the cuteness, which I'm okay with. The line work was a huge time killer. This was right when I started getting obsessed with The Little Mermaid, so I was listening to the soundtrack on repeat while drawing. 11. This is kinda where my obsession with The Little Mermaid reached its peak. My favorite song from that is Fathoms Below, and when I saw Pirate Bunny Boy in my bookmarks, I knew that I had to draw something inspired by that. This was pretty rushed, and both my anatomy and perspective are very off, but it was made with a lot of love and passion. In the end, that's all that counts, right? This design was very complicated, but very, very cool. The waves are probably my favorite part of this piece, and also probably the part I spent the least amount of time on. I'll probably redraw it at some point. 12. I'd been working on this animation since the 3rd day of Artfight. I'd been wanting to do this with this song for a while, but none of my own OCs really fit it. My favorite part was probably the lip sync. I don't draw in a program that allows sound, so it also is probably the most difficult. I had a few frames for that which didn't end up getting used. 13. This OC was actually recommended to me. I'm so glad it was, because he's so well thought out and such a fun concept, but also very obscure. When I attacked, he had no attacks whatsoever, and I was like, what? Anyways, when I showed it to my mother, she was very confused why he didn't have perfect pencil grip. It was like, he ain't writing anything. I'm actually really proud of the hand. Most of the rest of this I want to redraw. The butt colors were made with a random palette generator, and it really clashes with the wall. I wish I had made the wall color something else. This character deserved a bit better. 14. This mass attack took so long and had a lot of love poured into it. It took almost 13 hours to draw, so the speed paint doesn't really do it justice. I'm really happy with how well it how well I was able to replicate the Amori style. I heavily referenced to the Amori expression cheats, with Aubrey being most used for Hope and Henna, Amori being most used for Eru and Lost, Kel being most used for Henna. He was kind of used for every character, Basil being most used for Izuya and Sunny, Sunny being most used for Izuya and Litz. This was very fun to do, but the backgrounds were really hard to figure out. 15. I really liked these characters and had been eyeing them for a while, but forgot to bookmark them. I love the Cindrix Dere dynamic very much. The hair was very complicated, and I don't really think I did it justice. I was thinking about this in terms of a comic or a webtoon, since I had become pretty obsessed with them as of late. I don't think I got the lean for Alyssa down very well. I wish I had made both of their poses more dynamic. I really like how the background and scene turned out, though, especially the leaves on the tree. I was showing my father how I draw line work and stopped midway through to explain how I draw hands. Maybe I should post how I draw videos. I don't know if that's something anyone would be interested in, but let me know if it is. 16. This one is one I started working on while I was on vacation. Every day was very, very busy. I ended up going to bed at 9 a.m., then woke up at 3 a.m. and realized I hadn't done an attack for the day, so I was very rushed while I was really sleepy. I ended up going back to sleep around 4 a.m. I had a really cool idea for the pose and scene, but it definitely wasn't portrayed right. I also apparently forgot how on earth you hold a camera despite being an award-winning photographer. I was the only one who participated. I don't really have much to say about this one since I don't really like how it turned out. 17. Apparently the person who created this OC is in spectator mode. I didn't know what that was and didn't check for it until after I had already completed the entire attack, which is really sad because I had actually gotten very motivated for this one. We had just gotten back from vacation and had went to a restaurant to escape the heat. I was so hyped for it, man. I hope that they see this video or something. I really like the design of this OC. Maybe I just like oversized sleeves. You will see this in future attacks as well. 18. Originally, this one was supposed to be insanely complicated, and I actually bookmarked an entirely separate character from the same profile, and that was the one that I was supposed to do. But I was drawing this mostly in the car on vacation. I actually really do like how it turned out, though. Since she wasn't supposed to be the focal point, I didn't necessarily put too much thought into the base sketch, but pretty much everything else was great. I love her design and kind of wish I had drawn her oversized sleeves over her hand instead of rolled up. I got halfway done this day and completed it on the 21st. I could probably make it an entirely separate video on this one alone, but since I'm working with a time constraint, I'll have to end it here. 19. I started drawing this one facing the left before I realized a lot of my other drawings had been facing the left, so I decided to switch it up. I had bookmarked this OC last year because I thought it was such an interesting design. I love the fishes on her shirt and shoes. I'm not entirely sure I portrayed her personality, but I wasn't paying attention to where her eyes were looking. They should be looking at the viewer, but oh well. The shading was basically just a quick shading and lighting layer, but I think it turned out pretty, especially because it matches the background. I made a bunch of stars and then just copied and pasted them a whole bunch and hue adjusted them. 20. This was really a quick doodle while I was working on the animation for the next day. I had bookmarked this character a year ago just as a fun little do this when I'm bored, and it worked out pretty well. I'd already drawn the background as a scene study of a picture I'd taken a while back, which is why I labeled it as photo. If I'd been drawn it the same month, I'd have labeled it differently for the attack. I could have gone with an abstract one, but I really wanted to fall in line with the fact this stuffed animal travels the world. And since I thought it was very adorable and interesting, I love the stuffed animal so much. 21. I actually completed this in about 3 days. It was insane. I was drawing whenever possible. It turned out really well, though. My father was actually the person who suggested the song. And the more I thought about it, the more it fit Sunny's personality. I started working at like 8 p.m. on the 19th, which is why that drawing got cut off, and finished on the 21st. Unfortunately, his birthday is the 20th, so I didn't really get it on time. I was somewhat considering quitting, but this was way too much shit poured into it. Sunk cost fallacy and all. I really liked drawing the backgrounds. I did those while watching commentary videos, so now certain backgrounds legitimately have certain controversies associated with them. 22. I was mostly working on this one at a random Five Guys while we were escaping the heat. I'd not been drawing out of my comfort zone yet, and someone recommended a list of people and OCs that hadn't been attacked very often. I chose this one since I hadn't drawn cats in a while. Not exactly out of my comfort zone, but close enough. I'm writing the script for this on the 25th, so maybe I'll have done some by the time this thing gets recorded. I didn't really. I actually spent a lot of time and attention to detail on this one. I kinda reached that flow state, and it was awesome. I hadn't attempted cell shading in a while, so it was fun to get back into. I did, however, do a lot of cell shading in future attacks. I love drawing cozy cats. 23. This one took over 7 hours to do. I really loved the concept and wanted to experiment a lot with it. I tried doing a lot of poses and expressions and stuff. For the background, originally I was going to have his individual poses be puzzle pieces, but it didn't look right, so I just drew a grid and made the individual squares of the grid puzzle pieces. Since his body is one large puzzle piece that can't be solved, and his past is mysterious, which I take to mean he doesn't open up, which means his backstory is a puzzle that you can't solve as well, I thought it fit. Also, he's autistic, and the puzzle pieces are a symbol for that. 24. I don't actually have a speed paint for this one, since I was working on it on an iPad, which wasn't what I was used to, and I don't really have the ability to export very well, so it ended up being very rough in areas, and I don't think I really got the personality of the character very well. I really like the outfit and general setting, though. I think if it had color, it'd be very atmospheric. I was also working on this while working on a few animated attacks coming up, so not a ton of care was put into it, unfortunately. I am in love with the concept, though, and would be very cool to redraw in the future. Very cool. 25. Originally this was going to be for an animation trend, but I procrastinated a lot and didn't end up having time for that. Either Artfight or GIFs don't accept audio, so I didn't realize this while I was creating it, so the version on Artfight weird out of context. I did give the person I attacked the version with sound outside of Artfight, though. Apparently it was really in character. I don't know the lore for her, but now I'm curious. I just thought it fit her general vibe. I also was obsessed with the song House Cat by Flavor Fully while making it, and had been ever since I first heard it on the 20th. I don't know why the clipping layers wouldn't clip to the folder when they did on the first frame and every other time I've done that, so the lighting kinda has this weird rectangle at the bottom of every frame except the first. Do with that information what you will, may it haunt your dreams. 26. I was watching Murder Drones and was inspired by the movement. The animation in that thing is awesome. I made a base and just kind of looked for a character who'd fit, and this character caught my eye. I love her long hair and beautiful dress. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish coloring, but I did get the bubblegum pink hair and she's so pretty. The hardest part was trying to get the head bobble follow through to look okay, and even with a lot of revision, it looks a bit choppy. I learned a lot about animation from this piece and am honestly very proud of it. 27. I finished watching Murder Drones this day and found a Murder Drones OC that looked very cute. The pose was very hard to figure out, and I still don't think I got the perspectives entirely correct. The boots were probably my favorite thing to draw. I love the kitten backpack, but I don't think I got the stylization entirely correct, especially around the flap. Originally, I thought the scarf was a tail. I'm so glad that I caught that before the line art. I almost forgot the stars on the hood as well. I was in the process of submitting it before I realized. The design is somewhat complicated, but very rewarding to draw. I really like how the line work turned out. 28. I love this little flower very much. The design is very interesting. I almost forgot the patches, which is why they don't end up having line work. It took a while to get the pose to look like. I was going to do crisscross applesauce, but it got too complicated for me, so I landed on this instead. I think the legs look a bit short, but I can't for the life of me figure out why. I really like how the eye turned out, though. I was messing around with the lighting a bit and had an idea. I think it turned out really well, and I might attempt this in future works. 29. I had a vision of what I wanted this to look like, but I'm not entirely happy with it. I saw in her profile that her favorite animals are bunnies and that she likes dressing in goth fashion, so my first thought for her was a bunny goth girl. I hadn't done any sort of design changes for any of the previous attacks, so I thought I'd attempt something new. I actually really like it, or really do like how the design itself turned out. I searched up Bunny Girl and found a lot of maid dress type things. I saved a bunch of those for references and a goth person and got to work. I should have thought about perspective a bit more and made her arms a little less funky. Other than that, it turned out pretty well. I don't know. 30. I decided I'd attempt this one again. I drew this at midnight right after I had finished day 29's attack, so it worked out weirdly well. I kept saying I'd redraw ones I didn't like, but then never got around to it. But this one I really wanted to give a fair shot. I thought a frolicking pose would suit a bunny girl, though I think I made her arms a bit long. The fishnets for sleeves were really hard to figure out. You'd think I have learned a bit from day 5. Well, I did not. The colors were really hard to figure out. I wanted to have black or grayscale as the main palette and have some accent colors to complement, but because of the complicated design, it kind of demanded more color in order for certain pieces not to get entirely lost. I ended up settling on hot pink and a muted blue as my accent colors. I think that was the right call. The background was a mess as well. I basically just plopped color until it looked right. I'm pretty well with how it turned out overall. 31. I got bored and started looking through the new characters and found this little kitten. They're pretty adorable and I love the concept. They're mute and communicate through sign language. I know a little ASL and I love drawing cats, so I thought it'd be perfect. I did realize a bit late that cats don't exactly have thumbs, and you really need thumbs to sign a lot of words in ASL. The reference sheet didn't include their paws or hands, so I just headcanoned them as having hands to make it easier to draw. The rest was pretty simple. I made the clothing line art a bit shaky to simulate fur texture underneath the clothing. The eye highlight is the color of their eyes when their hood is up. I just thought that was cool. 32. I love this little girl. She had no attacks and I felt bad. Her color palette is quite interesting, and I'm really happy with how the background ended up complementing that. For pose, I just went with kind of my generic default pose, but it's turned slightly, so that makes it completely unique. I kinda wish I'd made the dress a bit more fluffy, but I am happy with the overall silhouette. I love how the hair turned out, though I probably should have added a bit more fluff to that as well. Oh well, maybe next year. Now's probably when I should mention that I lied. I didn't actually draw a single illustration per day of Artfight. I wrote the first bit of the script around the 25th before I realized Artfight was going on until the 2nd, because the site was really funky on the 1st. Hopefully this video will go up by the 2nd of August when Artfight is still in full swing. I'm just going to say it gives you all a little time to attack the people that I show here. So, yeah, go attack them if you have the spare time. Alright, now for the grand reveal. I got a total of 12 attacks. Fennel got the most with a total of 5 attacks. Lionel came in second with 4 attacks. Duck and Astra tied for third with 3 attacks each. Ruby got fourth with 2 attacks, and Alan came in last to not having received a singular attack. Now for the part you've probably all been waiting for, the amount of points I got this Artfight. I got a total of, drumroll please, 2,611 points. Woo! Well, that's about all I have for ya. I'm not very good with outros, so I'm just gonna end it here. Have a good day or night, and remember to doodle. Bye-bye.